went into this budget, and I am going into this budget with the thought that we need 94 officers. And if there's a lack of agreement on those numbers, then I think that it would be prudent for us to look at an analysis by an independent consultant that would help us understand and give us a baseline going into this. I think it would go hand in hand with reimagining policing and Director Capers' plans over the next year. And I also think that it would satisfy what hopefully it will satisfy what we need for staffing. But more importantly, I think, as pointed out, it may give us some different ideas that none of us are thinking about as far as future models of policing that we haven't really discussed yet.
I don't feel like I fully understand what the scope of work on this is, in terms of it's just kind of to help us kind of establish the status quo, or if this is part of the reimagining process. And you know, $60,000 might sound like a drop in the bucket, but I don't think it is. So I would need to understand more about how this fits into the reimagining police discussion, as opposed to just kind of a study of the current department under status quo. Thank you.
This staffing study really can provide that baseline data for what the department currently does to then reimagine from there. So in my opinion, it's extremely valuable to start doing this. Is the data gathering phase, and then, you know, taking that data to then reimagine. So I think that it's extremely valuable. I will say that we feel that it is an extremely important study because we can't gather data, we can't plot a course on where we're going without knowing where we are right now, and without we can't look at what types of calls are potential opportunities for alternative response without having updated data on what they look like right now from an independent source. Yes, we did. The city, I say we, but the city did undertake a study in 2001. A lot has changed since 2001. A lot has changed since 2017. So, you know, we feel like it's something that's really, really valuable for the police department. It's valuable for the community. It's valuable for the administration moving forward, and sets the table, accelerates us towards being able to make those decisions. Without the data, we can't make the decisions. Just wanted to respond. Thank you.
This would hold. How long do you expect this to take? And do you think it will take away from what you're doing?
Through the chair. Councilor, I would say that how long do we expect it to take depends on the consultant that's hired. Does it inhibit us from doing the work around reimagining policing? Absolutely not. Knowing the data, you cannot manage what you don't understand. And you cannot manage information you don't have. And so part of the piece to help promote effective policy changes and decision making is understanding the data and being able to act upon the data for all pieces that are needed in reimagining policing, and definitely understanding the staffing within the police department is a part of that, but it doesn't hold up any of the other pieces that need to be moving at the same time.
I will support 1 month staffing for the 6 positions as I did last year, not the 6 months. This will allow the Director of Racial Social Justice to have 11 months to host a reimagining police vision process and determine what the best next steps are.
I will support this motion at this time. It still keeps the positions on a line And then if by chance the Director of Racial and Social Justice does have successful roundtables and community dialogue with herself, the community, and the police department before 11 months has transpired, the administration or the chief can come back to us if they come to terms of agreement and need before the 1 month hits, if the need be. So it would allow them to hire these individuals if that's the decision of the community, and working with the director of the SJC and the police department.
How are you planning as your department to hold accountable these recommendations and implement them into reality?
Through the chair, I'd be happy to revisit that conversation when I've had the opportunity to engage more of the community. And again, I want to emphasize the community that's our most vulnerable population that is mostly impacted by this, because the part of the RSJ department that I want to emphasize is that this is a community-driven process. And so while recommendations will be put forward, there is a community-driven portion of this where we consult with the community, we share in transparency what those recommendations are, and we determine as far as having that engagement with the community, and that includes internal, that includes city council, in regards to what are the resources that we have available, where can we go from here, and that is something that we cannot foresee until we have all our data collected, we have the analysis completed, we have the recommendations in front of us.
And we have 84 serving officers, but 94 funded positions. So we're minusing 10. And when you go forward from that, 1 resigned, 1 transferred, and we rehired an officer. That leaves us with 11 vacancies.
Thank you for that information. So I'm just looking at the committee notes from both the Finance Committee and this committee's notes over the past 6 months or so. So you don't have the information on the 4 officers who were approved in the FY 2022 budget pending they passed the police academy.
So I think what you're referencing is that 2 of the officers resigned in the 21, but without looking at the actual names in the document that you're looking at, I can't speak to the specifics of it. So if you have specific questions, I'll be happy to provide answers to you in writing. But you asked for an account of where these positions came from and how they became open, and were they results of promotions and retirements, as we discussed, and they are a result of promotions, retirements, as we discussed. So if you have other questions, I'll be happy to respond in writing to those.
Councilor Pineda Neufeld, I do still have questions.
Before we move on,
yep,
Councilor, it sounds like this is really a Finance Committee conversation about the budget and not about the candidates in front of us tonight to be confirmed.
This is a question about what the legitimacy of these vacancies are. To my understanding and to the public's understanding and to the budget that we are responsible for upholding as the council, that the mayor's office is responsible for upholding, many of these positions that I'm looking at were pending a staffing study that has not been completed. There are only 2 promotions that I can identify as being filling these actual positions that we have ahead of us tonight. And so I'm just fundamentally struggling to understand where these positions have come from. And ultimately, last night was told that all of these vacancies are from promotions and retirements. And the FY 2021 budget is fantastic information for us to have as context. But in terms of the FY 2022 budget, which determines the staffing levels of the police department, these numbers do not add up. They do not align with the budget that we as a council passed. They do not align with the budget that the mayor's office approved. And so I am deeply concerned that we're moving forward with this process tonight when it's unclear that we can even answer the questions of where these vacancies come from.
I understand your concern. I just think this conversation is better suited for the finance committee when we talk about budget and not when we're at the confirmation of appointments committee when we have 4 candidates in front of us tonight.
But Councilor Pineda Neufeld, these positions are determined by the budget. And so if we don't understand if these are the 6 positions pending the results of the staffing study, or if these are the 4 positions pending the passage of the academy, or the 3 additional positions that were passed in the FY 2022 budget, I take issue with us not having the oversight, the transparency, and the record of this conversation. Because at the end of the day, if we are supposed to be filling positions based on budget that exists, and we're filling positions based does not exist, then we are not actually holding up our responsibility of oversight, transparency, and a fiduciary responsibility to our constituents.
Madam
I am
Chair.
happy to leave my comments there. I feel deeply unsatisfied with the answers I've been given, and will proceed with voting no on the candidates tonight, given the fact that we do not have substantial information to prove that these candidates are not due to the vacancies in the budget that I outlined, and that is on our city's website.
Madam Chair.
Councillor Strezzo, and then I see a comment from Councillor Klingon.
Thank you. I would like to continue on. This conversation can be continued on offline. You're the chair of the committee. This is the Confirmation and Appointments Committee. And if we can proceed on with the meeting, I respectfully follow your guidance as chair of this committee.
I believe we need to build winning coalitions and bring people into this fight to figure out how to divert resources away from the police budget into things that work, like deeper mental health services. I also want to share my gratitude for the Defund SPD presentation that showed the commitments the city has made around policing that we haven't followed through on. As city councilor, I'll bring my own lived experience to this issue and ensure that the commitments and promises we've made become a reality.